Hello, and thanks for tuning in to Town Meeting TV's coverage of Town Meeting Day 2025. My name is Elaine Haney. This program is part of a series of budget presentations and candidate forums hosted by Town Meeting TV in advance of the Town Meeting Day election on Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. These forums are made possible by Town Meeting TV's generous underwriting partners. You can find all our forums at cctv.org/TMD2025 or on our Town Meeting TV YouTube channel, where auto-generated captions are available. If you're tuning in on YouTube, click the subscribe button to stay tuned into local democracy this election season. On tonight's program, we will hear from 3 municipal staff from Winooski about items on their ballot. Those guests are Mayor Kristine Lott, Deputy Mayor Thomas Renner, and City Manager Elaine Wang. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Elaine.
It's clear I'm the only staff person here. These two are elected officials.
Very true. Elected officials, senior staff. Thank you. So if you're tuning in live, we also welcome your questions at 802-862-3966. If you call in, we'll do our best to prioritize your question, though we will screen calls to ensure questions are not repeated. We ask that you share your name, the town you live in. You can also submit questions for future forums online at cctv.org/TMD2025. So let's get started with the presentation. Mayor Lott, would you like to start?
Excellent. Thank you, Elaine. Thank you for the introduction. We're here tonight to present our fiscal year 2026 budget, including our capital plan, the other items that you're going to see on the Town Meeting Day ballot this year in Winooski, and we'll also preview some developing issues to look forward to in the coming year.
So a reminder that everything that your city team has done and continues to do is guided by the strategic vision that the community set in 2015. These themes continue to be relevant today to maintain and expand our economic vitality, to invest in municipal infrastructure, ensure a mix of quality housing, and foster a safe, healthy, and connected people. Since the initial vision setting in 2015, we've spent a lot of time creating plans to support that vision and have since shifted focus to how to achieve the community vision of affordability with equity being top of mind.
On that note, I want to mention we have had a growing focus on equity in our work. Last year I shared that Council had developed some tools to help us bring that lens to our work, and particularly in decisions around the budget. This year we were able to actually bring in a lot more community voice, which I think is really important for actually bringing equity into the work. Shout out to city staff, our finance director, Angela Aldieri, for coming up with a really cool budget activity that let folks kind of allocate the dollars how they would like to see them prioritized. Did that at a number of community events. We got more than 80 residents who responded to that activity and gave us input. And then also developed a survey which got 50 individual responses. So frankly, that's, I think, more input than I've seen in my years doing this process. So the results were really affirming, like people do value our services, but there is notable concern about affordability and the tax rate.
Congrats on getting resident participation in the budget process.
Thank you.
You know all about that too.
Yeah.
So over the past year, we've advanced big community projects. If you've driven up Main Street, you know that we've advanced big community projects. We've expanded community services, program capacity. We've advanced important housing policy and maintained public safety under challenging circumstances. The work that you see on the screen is just a brief snapshot of everything that we have been able to do.
So diving into what we are here for, the key piece of information, the fiscal year 2026 budget that voters will get to vote on Town Meeting Day. What I have here for you is the total impact of this budget for the typical household in the city will be about $238 more in 26 than what is being paid right now. So part of that is a 3.99% projected tax rate increase, which, I'm sorry, there's a typo on this slide. I believe it's $128 increase over the current year. So that would be for the whole year, the impact to the average household. And then there's also increases in our utility rates, which will be about another $113 for the year for the typical household usage of our water utilities. Want to share a bit about what goes into that 3.99% tax rate increase. What you can see on this slide is that it is primarily related to the people who do the work, which is the biggest part of likely most city budgets. We have union contracts that require cost of living adjusted wage increases, which it's required, but we also want to be increasing salaries over time as practice. And then what you'll notice here, the largest share is due to benefits because of the rising healthcare costs that we are all very aware of, unfortunately. We've also experienced a bit of a decrease in non-tax revenue and an increase in our contract costs. Several of our partners are requiring more funding to retain their services.
So this is a graph that I really love. I don't know who came up with it, but it's a great way to see how your tax dollars break down for each department that we have in the city. So if your home is valued at $413,000, this is what your tax breakdown would be. So as you'll see, police and dispatch receive the largest chunk of your taxes, and that's because it's the only department in Winooski that we staff 24/7, 365. Obviously, everybody wants to make sure that when they pick up the phone for a police officer that somebody will respond. Then we'll see capital expenses. Those will include debt services for things like the Main Street Revitalization Project and city vehicle replacements. We have general administration. So those are the people that make all of those functions happen. Public Works, they manage our streets, our sidewalks, our water, wastewater, all of those types of services. Community services, so those are our green spaces, our safe spaces, learning spaces and programs. Those are things like our pool, our library, our senior center, all of the things that people enjoy and love to participate with in the community. Fire and code enforcement, you'll see down on the next line. They protect our safety and our health related to our buildings and road hazards. And then at the bottom, you'll see contracts, and that's for regional programs. So those are things like GMT, which is the bus service, the park services, VLCT. Those are costs that we can't control. They have their own budgets. They set their own budgets, and we are a participating member in that. So this is, again, just a breakdown of what it will look like for you. If you live in that home that's $413,000, you'll see $3,263 in municipal taxes, and that's the breakdown that you would experience.
And that's our median home value.
And that's the median home value, yeah.
So what's different in this budget? We have not added any staff or new services this year. We don't have any bond votes coming. It's relatively straightforward. You'll see the largest increase here is the cost to retain the Howard Center Community Outreach Team service in our community. They provide mental health response support. It's super critical to residents, to the whole community, to our PD even. And unfortunately, the state has shifted away some grant funding that is causing towns to have to pick up more of this cost. We are increasing our contribution to the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission to support, in partnership with a couple of other member towns, to support a shared equity policy advisory role. So we used to have, at one point, we had a full-time equity director on staff and found that that wasn't a sustainable way to have that service in Winooski. This is a way we can attain that service that would be very beneficial to us, but in a way that is cost-effective and also at a rate of service that we could respond to realistically with our resources.
And that is a position that's proposed to be shared by multiple municipalities. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's right. You'll see the capital plan here shows up as a negative. I want to be clear about that, though. Last year, we increased a lot in the capital fund budget. While we're not retaining all of last year's increase, we're retaining a portion of it. So in previous years, we did a 5% escalator on our capital plan. This is a little bit higher than that because we're still trying to catch up, frankly, in our infrastructure needs.
Yep.
So what this will do for us is support, on top of our annual paving and sidewalk work that we always do, vehicle replacements. We'll also do some work at Landry Park and Gilbrook related to stormwater and safety, an engineering study at the firehouse, which we'll get to in a few minutes, and build some capacity to implement our parks and open space plan, which we adopted, I think 2 or 3 years ago at least now, and haven't been able to do much with. And then as mentioned, partner services increasing, Green Mountain Transit, I think a lot of folks have heard they're having some budget problems, so our assessments increased there. Town Meeting TV, this wonderful service, and Winooski Valley Parks District, we have been underpaying our assessed dues for some time and are continuing to step up our payment every year, trying to get back to what we're supposed to be paying for those services. So let's get into the capital plan.
Yeah, so as you alluded to, we're going to be doing some design and scoping work at Landry Park. So that is so that we can maintain our state mandated permit requirements for stormwater. So that's really important work that we want to make sure that we're ahead of and we're not, falling out of compliance. So we'll be looking at that. And also the other photo that you see is over at Gilbrick Reservoir, which is a popular place where folks take their dogs and go walking. As you can see, there's a lot of corrosion on that, and that can potentially lead to safety concerns, both for the street that is next to it and for the reservoir that it retains the water to. This plan also includes $10,000 towards our Parks and Open Space plan, so that staff can start building capacity towards other improvements to our park system. So some really good capital investments there. We also, like many folks, have noticed that it's increasingly difficult to recruit fire staff. Winooski relies on a primarily volunteer fire department.
Not volunteer.
Sorry, not volunteer. Not volunteer.
Paid per call.
We do pay them per call, but not full-time staff. Is what I meant by volunteer. Yeah, thank you for the good distinction. So what we've noticed is, in order to retain these, because we train everybody's really highly skilled. And folks need to be able to be close to the fire department in order to participate. We can't have somebody living in South Burlington and not able to get to Winooski in time. So there's been difficulty all over the state and nationwide in recruiting fire department folks. So we're looking at doing a study so that we can see if having sleeping quarters within the fire department will assist with those recruiting efforts. So that way somebody could live in Colchester, but they want to be a Winooski fighter, they would be able to have somewhere where they could sleep, and then they wouldn't be, far away from the fire department, because they'd be right there. So we're going to be looking at that, because moving towards a 24/7 hour fire model would be extremely expensive and something that I'm not even sure the taxpayer would be able to do. So we're trying to explore all avenues so that we can continue to offer Winooski residents fire services.
I mentioned the annual street paving. I want folks to know that we do, every year, we budget for some amount of paving work. I mentioned earlier, we've been trying to catch up in capital. We actually are seeing street conditions overall improving over time. Over the years that I've been involved, I've noticed an improvement. So we are getting there. We're not quite there, but we're on our way. Also, I love to share this map every year so residents see, there is a plan. We do a certain section every year. It's based on the pavement conditions. I know whichever street I drive the most, I think is the worst one in the city, but that's not always true. And we also try to go east-west every year so that we're not getting in one neighborhood too much inequitably. So the plan for next year includes parts of Bellevue and Dion Street. Additionally, we're continuing the work on the Rogers, Gale, Florida side of town that we took a vote on last year so we could not only repave, but redo all the curbing and sidewalk over there, as it's incredibly expensive to couple all that together. When we do our annual paving, we also try to couple in sidewalk repairs with whatever streets we're doing the paving work on. And we adopted an ADA transition plan that guides us on ramps and things like that. So we're trying to incorporate that work as well. And so the sidewalk plan is not as exciting because you can't see year to year what we're gonna do. We work it in as we can.
Right, and it is very expensive to couple together, but it's actually strategic as well, because it's more expensive if you think you have to do a road and then it's too, if then the curb is too low or too high, you have to match those things together.
Right. I think the work we did this last year, it was roughly the same cost to do a half mile of paving as 400 feet of sidewalk. So sidewalk is significantly more funding. It is a community concern, we've heard, sidewalk conditions, And I do want to mention the Main Street Revitalization Project that we all eagerly await the results of. That actually addresses, I want to say it's at least 3 of the top priority bike pedestrian safety concerns in the city.
How close or where are you in the timeline of the completion of the Main Street project?
Yeah, so it's a 2.5-year project, and we're done with the first year. So,
Great.
And we're actually under budget, which is great news, and right on schedule. So,
Fantastic.
Things you don't always hear.
Yes.
Right. No, that's a feat. Congratulations.
due to the community bearing with us and the good
Yeah.
partnership with the partners.
So this town meeting day, you won't just be voting on the budget that we've been talking about. You'll also be voting for city council and school board seats as well. There's 2 city council seats with 2-year terms, 2 school board seats with 2- and 3-year terms, and then the Winooski School District Treasurer as well. And then there will also be 2 voter-backed petitions.
So voter-backed petitions, Vermont law allows residents to collect signatures to get something put on the ballot. It requires 5% of registered voters. Most of the time we have to do it unless they're non-binding, and then we have a choice whether or not we put it on. So a petition is non-binding if the matter that it deals with doesn't have explicit authority to voters by state statute. So we do have a non-binding petition on this year. We actually received 3. We've got 2 that are going to be on the ballot.
So one of them, Article 4, you may recall this one, the charter change for just cause eviction. It was on the 2023 ballot, and voters approved this charter change. And it was also sent to the legislature to be under their consideration as well. Unfortunately, the city set the first public hearing for a date. It was 8 days too early per statute, which means that we have to revote on the item. So should it pass again, this will further support our legislature to take up this issue, as the charter change requires state approval on top of local vote. And if and when the state approves it, the city would then still have some work to figure out how we're going to implement the charter change. So you have seen this before. It's the same thing that you voted on in 2023, but it is all warned appropriately this time.
Correct.
Yeah, we're just correcting a clerical error.
Yeah.
The legislature could take action anyway. Maybe the second vote will give them a boost.
Right, right.
So the second voter-backed petition that we received is related to Palestinians in Israel. So this is the non-binding petition that we received, meaning it's only advisory. If voters support this, there won't be any action coming out of it. We're not required to take any specific actions. It's more like using your voice to share a suggestion. And so this petition asks folks to affirm a pledge to join others to work towards ending support to Israel's apartheid regime, colonialism, military occupation. So folks are going to see this on the ballot as well.
So turning a look towards FY26 and beyond, here are some things just for folks to keep on their radar. The city plans to sell the O'Brien Community Center to Champlain Housing Trust to ensure a vibrant and sustainable community center. This includes plans to retain existing tenants and community access and expand space for the library and the community health center. I recently went to an event where they showed the plans for what everything's going to look like, and it's really going to enhance what the current community center offers. So I know that people are really excited for that project to start. The Main Street, I'll say it again because it's good news. The Main Street Revitalization Project continues, and so far it is within the $23 million voter-approved budget. So again, just really great, and thank you everyone for bearing with us as we went through the construction season. We know it was difficult for businesses and folks, but once it's all done, it's going to be a really fantastic project. Our staff is also heavily engaged in the planning with the Burlington and Winooski Bridge construction. That's scheduled to start in 2027. And again, we recognize that's going to be a huge project. There's going to be traffic diversions and different flows of traffic throughout different variations of the project. But again, a critical project. The bridge has to be replaced eventually or it will fall down. So hoping that work's all going to start on time in 2027. Again, recruitment for police and fire, it's been a challenge for several years, nationally, locally, and in Winooski. And it's starting to get to a critical point, so it's something that staff and council will continue to talk about. Regional dispatch, as approved by voters in 2018, we're working towards a regional model for emergency dispatch to reduce response times, improve dispatch service, and find efficiencies. The Chittenden County Public Safety Authority, that is tasked to stand up regional dispatch, is still working out funding and structures as membership priorities have changed. The budget includes funding to continue participation. The pathway to regional dispatch still remains a little unclear. And finally, the state discussions on education and the shortfall in public transit. We don't know how this is going to play out, but we definitely know that it will impact our residents. So that's something we're staying engaged with, and we'll work on no matter what comes out of Montpelier.
A little broader context, less exciting than much of what you shared. I've shared in years past this, I'm calling it the backlog this year. We called it unfunded needs last year. I mentioned earlier, like, we are working to catch up on infrastructure investments. There was a period of time, it's been several years, but there was a period of time where the city was not spending enough to maintain infrastructure, and we're still catching up from that. So I have a list here with a number of items staff have identified that we are going to need to do in the coming years. Not everything on here even has a cost yet. It's not like all this is happening in like 2, 3, 5 years.
And also, not everything is on here.
Yeah, this is not everything.
Too.
But I like sharing this to show why we are asking for an increase, why we are trying to continue investing in capital, and why we can't do everything all at once. Folks obviously have differing priorities. We often get, there's a lot of questions about infrastructure and like bike pedestrian safety, and we are working on a lot of projects that touch on that now. Main Street, the bridge, the work over on the east side of town. We're making progress on most of the priorities in the transportation master plan. It's just that there's a lot to do, so it's going to take a number of years to keep plugging away. But we are building capacity to work this stuff into future capital plans. So this shouldn't be alarming. Just so folks know, there is more to be done.
It's a long list in every town.
Yes.
Every town, yeah,
I'm
exactly,
certain.
exactly.
Although I have to say, in my time here, the council has made, and the community has made investments that has shortened the list that I inherited. So appreciate the community for working on that.
It's great news.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for the budget and ballot topics. We have a little voting information here.
Yeah, as a reminder, we need you to vote for these things, so please vote. Go to the Senior Center on voting day. And as a reminder, in Winooski, all residents are able to vote, regardless of if they're U.S. citizens or not. So if you are not a U.S. citizen and need some help signing up to vote, you can call our city clerk at 802-655-6410, or you can stop by the clerk's office between 7:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. at 27 West Allen Street. If you're a U.S. citizen and you live in Winooski, you can register to vote online through the state, olvr.vermont.gov. You can also go to the city clerk's office if you want to. And one of the wonderful things about Vermont is we have same-day voter registration, so you can just register right at the polls. We ask that you register beforehand, but if you forget about it, you can register right there just before voting.
Yeah. We have a minute or two left, so I want to ask you really quickly, going back to the ballot items, what do you anticipate for the legislative approved ballot items, whether they will be approved by the legislature? Because there have been ballot initiatives in the past that Winooski voters have approved that were not taken up by the legislature. What's your forecast on that?
So for just cause eviction, our representatives delivered bills for that last year. I know the legislature didn't want to dig into it yet. I have heard that it is something that they're willing to look at this year, but I don't have a strong sense of where they'll land.
Yes. Some more towns voted on just cause eviction after Winooski did,
Yes.
Which I think kind of helped to drum up a little more excitement maybe under the Golden Dome. So, and with I think the statewide focus on housing, I think that people are trying to look at different avenues to alleviate the housing crisis. So I think there might be at least some discussion about it.
Great. And in terms of Green Mountain Transit, that's something that's impacting pretty much every town in Chittenden County, and we're all being asked to share more of our taxpayer dollars to help them along. Are there solutions or ideas that Winooski has that have been presented to Green Mountain Transit to try to help them maintain the routes that go through your city?
We actually have the highest performing route in their network.
Route 2?
Route 9.
Route 9.
Yeah.
Route 2 and Route 9 go through Winooski. They both have the highest ridership. So like for the cost of what it is to run, they're very effective. I think that our concerns are more with the broader network and folks being able to connect outside of our borders in downtown Burlington.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, agreed.
Actually, the state study that was done for transit, GMT had recommendations based on that that are consistent with those findings. And so I think what we could all do is look at what they think would help out of that report that was commissioned by the state and see what can be done with those ideas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every town is being asked to support this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and as budgets are tough, we're all being asked to pay a little bit more, and GMT is an extraordinarily valuable service, but we want to make sure that they're set up for a healthy future.
Exactly. Well, thank you all for your time, Mayor Lott, Deputy Mayor Renner, and City Manager Elaine Wang. And thank you for tuning into Town Meeting Television's ongoing coverage of local candidates, budgets, and ballot items. You can find this and many more forums at cctv.org/TMD2025 or on your Town Meeting TV YouTube channel. Don't forget to cast your vote on Town Meeting Day on or before March 4th, and then tune into Town Meeting TV's coverage and results recap show that evening. Contact your local clerk to find out how to obtain a ballot and to register to vote. And in Vermont, as Deputy Mayor Renner said, you can register to vote on Election Day. Thank you for watching and sharing Town Meeting TV.